Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:30, and we're starting the July 28, 2025 budget workshop. If you can please stand with me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we will now have the invocation by Councilmember Lowe. All right, thank you. All right, on to our presentations. No? Okay. All right, no presentations. Okay, Rick, thank you. Yeah, well, that's why I was going to see if we can do that. So we'll move the executive session to the end so we can get through everything. So that brings us on to agenda item 7, our workshop and briefings. 7A, budget workshop. Ms. Sylvia?
Thank you, Mayor. What you have in front of you is a very, very, very working document. We have launched OpenGov, which is a brand new transparency software. I'm going to share it with the folks at home and with you. It is meant to be a digital format, and so the print is a little bit clunky yet. We will clean that up after today's meeting and provide you a super clean copy by the end of the week for publication on the city's website also. So let's get started. All fund summaries. Projection, total revenue this year, 71,955,906. That's 71 million, almost 72 million. Expenditures of 65 million. Revenue over expenditure 6.9 million, and ending fund balance among all funds 57 million. I will say last year you saw expenditures over revenues because we had a large amount of capital expenses, and so as money was borrowed it was put into funds, and so it made it appear that we were in the negative. That is not true. There is an independent capital fund. We have pretty much expended all of those accounts with the exception of projects that are planned or ongoing, and we'll go through that here in a little bit. Largest contributors to fund balance, BP&L remains very healthy at 8.3 million. Water wastewater impact fee, of course, that is a restricted fund, can only be used for infrastructure at 4.5 million. Debt service of 3.2 million, that's also a restricted fund, that pays exactly for debt. Water wastewater operating has a fund balance of 3.2 million, which is also a healthy fund, but we know he's got things on the horizon. And then roadway impact fees of 1.5. That's a brand new fund. There's nothing associated to it yet, and so you'll begin to see that account grow, and that is the account for New Streets. So folks out in the world, that is the account for New Streets. That is impact fees that help pay for new roads to a development. This is also the fee that if the developer chooses to build the road, we offset impact fees. So this is one of those hybrid fees. Most of these are restricted, meaning we can only do certain things with them. So the city doesn't have a flush of $57 million. Trust me, we don't. In the general fund, proposed revenues of $18.4 million. We do have operating expenditures of $18.7 million, meaning we have expenses over revenues of $374,000. There are some items still embedded in the general fund as it relates to vehicle maintenance that we will talk about here in a minute, because our current way to do equipment replacements is not a sustainable method to the departments. They are sacrificing much needed personnel to pay for a vehicle, for example, because we've been in a pay-as-you-go format. Several years ago, the city did borrow money for a tax note, which was the smart way to do it. It was a short-term 7-year note. We're about to get out of that note here. That is the very smart way to do it. What we're doing today is really not sustainable. We end up with a $5.1 million fund balance, which is 27% of required. The 25% is required reserve, so there's still $783,000 above fund balance. And then we have an estimated about $169,000 in addition to that. So we'll be shy of $1 million above required fund balance. Assessed values, they went down a little bit. 0.004%. We have new valuation of $31,798,000. So really, you will see this next year. The total freeze adjusted is $1,657,000,000. We use a percentage of things that are still in review, so we use $1.652 billion for all of our calculations. I know that is a difficult. I don't know if I can zoom into that. That's a difficult one to read. So that's an overall view of how we came up with. There are 3 calculations that are required by law. One of them is the current no new revenue rate, meaning you can't really take into account all the new stuff you created, and you must equal the same revenue that you received last year. We have a voter approval tax rate, which is last year's rate plus 3.5% on the maintenance and operation side. And then we have what is called a de minimis rate. That's mostly meant for smaller cities. That is the tax rate plus $500,000 plus your debt payment. And that really was created also for cities who go through emergency, hurricanes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a little bit better. So there's that current year taxable value, $1.6 billion. We have a proposed tax rate in this year's budget of 0.4994, which is the same rate. We did not go up. You'll notice the 4994 is still less than the no new revenue rate. That's, again, there's a variety of reasons for that. Even though we will collect less, I think by sweeping the VERF and sweeping some of those excess funds and being smarter with the money in terms of investment and interest income, that's going to offset itself. And so what that means is the tax levy to the homeowner is about one, for the average household, which we'll go through that number in a minute, is $1,656.56. If we went with the no new revenue rate, that rate would be $1,717.96. If we raised it all the way up to the maximum rate allowed by law without going to the voters, that is $1,789.59. So here's the debt. And the number gets larger as we move into the other funds. This is general fund debt only. So we start with $2.5 million worth of debt. There was a borrow that was done for streets. Originally, this was embedded in the street maintenance fund. I took it out because we told the voters that the street maintenance fund was going to repair streets. And so this debt was borrowed by the city before the street maintenance tax was approved. And so we put it back into the general fund because that's what we told the voters we were going to do. The only debt that's in the street is the initial debt of about $1.2 million that we took out for the HA5 to begin in anticipation of the revenues. Then we have the $15 million proposed borrow. That is an interest-only payment in the first year, which brings our total debt levy to $3.6 million in the general fund. less the convention center payment for its payment. Revenue against taxable value brings our actual debt rate to 0.1852, which is a slight reduction from last year's 1962. So taking that all the way through, we do the calculations of the no new revenue maintenance and operation rate, which is 0.5179, minus out the debt rate, and we would have a proposed maintenance and operation rate of 0.3327. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh. Sorry. Oh, sorry. What we're required to do by law is, again, the multiple calculation comparisons. At the voter-approved rate, which is the amount the voters that we can do before we take it to the voters, is 35 cents for maintenance and operation, the required debt payment, which brings that rate to 0.5392. While we believe 4 cents is a minimal, it makes a difference. It is a difference of $790,000 addition into the general fund. And for the homeowners, it is the difference of 1656 to 1788. So it's about $120+ difference. So we're cognizant of that. We know everything is going up, and so we're deciding to hold the rate steady at the proposed budget. The council can always add, which then moves the rate anywhere along that continuum. This is not the rate that has to be adopted. This is the entire continuum. So that's a better, that's a better slide. No new revenue rate, 0.5179, proposed 4994, voter approved rate, 0.5392, et cetera, et cetera. Just an explanation, same amount of revenue last year based on value of the same properties from both years. Oh, there's our historical property rate distribution. Bastrop in 2022 had a rate of 0.5794. We went down to 0.51, and we've held steady at 0.4994 over the last 3 years. Same slide of the historical property tax rate. This is important because residents don't appreciate the fluctuations. You have to be strategic in your debt. We have some more debt that will potentially be paid off. We have some excess fund balance in the debt service account, which can only be used to pay off debt. So we may be paying off some smaller accounts, which will also begin to leave more room in the rate. We will know that in the next couple of weeks as we work through our financial advisor and our bond counsel. So what does this mean to the average resident? In 2023, the average price, according to our Esri business analyst, was $288,371. In 2024, $308,325. And in 2025, $331,711. So the proposed rate of 4994 will add $118.56 more than last year. That's the legal ease required.
Sylvia,
Yes.
you said according to our Esri something?
Business analyst, yes.
So, but that's not the tax rolls, is that correct?
That is not the tax rolls, no. This is just an example of what it would mean for the average property owner.
Right, but the average property owner, we can get that from the tax rolls because this is a large enough data set that I would expect that if they showed that the total sum of all the values of the tax properties went down slightly, that the average property in that, I don't know, we'd have to look at it a little bit, but like the median value or something like that, probably didn't go up by 8% like that number did.
We can certainly do that calculation. We would have to calculate a percentage of those things still in protest. So it would still be a moving target, but I can certainly do that.
I mean, but I don't think this is consistent with the other things that have been presented, and I've been struggling with this for the last few minutes, trying to figure out why. And then when you said that it came from an entirely different data set, that's the answer, is because it didn't come from the tax rolls. So what I would expect is the tax rolls, because they shrunk slightly, that the average home would have shrunk slightly in valuation as well, such that the multiplication would show that we're collecting less this year than last year from the
Not
average
necessarily,
taxpayer.
because Bastrop received a giant addition of commercial, more than residential.
Okay.
So, but I can certainly go and do that math and make sure this is compared in our next presentation.
Thank you.
Sales tax also makes up a good portion of the general fund revenue. So in 2025, our sales tax projection was a little bit over $9 million. And we are a little bit shy of projections, but I believe that we're going to end the year strong. This weekend's indication of all the activity that was going down on Main Street is a good predictor of that, I believe. And so, but for 2026, we did a small 1.1% increase. We didn't go crazy in that regard.
Sylvia? Since we only went 1.1%, that tells me we probably didn't add in for all of the businesses that'll come online.
No, we did not.
So
We did not.
should beat that by a good bit, I would think. And I know it's hard to predict, and I'd rather be conservative.
You're
but
right. You're
I
right.
think it's important that we realize that we should have that bit
Yep.
of a safety factor in there, because, again, if we had approved these projects, particularly the Burleson East one, that have been sitting on the books for 6 or 7 years, then we would know how much it was going to be, because we would have already been collecting it for a couple of years. But now we're finally going to see at least a partial year
Yes.
of some of those sales taxes.
Yes. And so there are some unfunded requests that we're going to go through, and those would be mid-year budget adjustments as they come online. So, as I said, the street maintenance rehabilitation, we will continue to support this with general fund dollars in the tune of $442,875, $442,000. That's coming from the general fund. Prior contributions range from $25,000 to 1 year we did do an $800,000 transfer from the general fund. That was a one-time contribution. The bridge and quality of life projects that we'll talk about in the Parks and Rec workshop are $15 million, and they are already included in that debt rate. There is no additional staff for public safety this year. Vicki continues to check her budget to make sure I haven't added any personnel in, as does Nick in fire. I have not just yet. Again, we'll have to see as things come online how we're able to fund those. And then the VERF, it needs some serious attention to remain solvent. An example is PD has $441,000 in lease payments. So that's 3 officers essentially she's not paying for, because it's in the operating budget even though it's a capital expense. So we've got to figure out how to do that. And then Discover Bastrop has a net positive in the hotel occupancy fund. Last year, we had a drawdown expenditures more than revenues in the hot fund, and we drew that down. This year, there is a positive $500,000 or so into the hotel occupancy fund amongst all of the changes. So, significant changes in the budget. Despite no increase in staff, the police budget increased by $346,355. That is training, that is step increases, that is retention bonuses, et cetera, et cetera. We did not give a cost of living increase this year, although we do have a 2.5% step increase on the anniversary date, and that amounts to $353,000 in the budget. All of the VERF payments were removed except the lease payments. Those are required lease numbers to make. The proposed budget only includes a half-time new full-time position in the general fund. That's the general fund. I believe there are additional positions in the water wastewater fund. And then our health benefit costs increased by 10%, which was a total of $686,000. So, significant changes in the Visit Bastrop. We absorbed 2 staff from the former Visit Bastrop organization. We are still in the process of reconciling how much excess fund balance. We know there's an overpayment of $250,000 that will fall back to the hot fund, plus any additional that they have in excess this year. We added 2 new positions, which is several new positions: cultural arts coordinator, special events coordinator, special events worker, all supporting the convention center. We eliminated the Visit Bastrop executive director and the convention center director, so that was an offset. We did make some salary adjustments to adjust with the city pay scale. So there was a net increase in capacity without an increase in overall personnel cost, which amounts to about a $500,000 reduction in operating costs. We eliminated third-party costs of rents, copiers, janitors, HR, and finance contracts.
Sylvia, on the top line, 2 staff from former Visit Bastrop. So even if the 2 former staff, are we going to keep that spot open for the space for the salaries, no matter who they are?
Yes, so they came over and they've been transitioned into these, they've been transitioned into positions, into marketing positions.
Okay.
I'll show that in the org chart.
Thank you.
So that's it with the general fund. We move on to the development services fund. This is a brand new fund. It used to be included in the general fund. It is what we call a special revenue fund, and it is quickly moving into an enterprise fund, meaning it's a small business unit within the overall city department. It makes its own revenue. It can be the master of its own universe in terms of hiring, and it does provide support to the general fund. There is a transfer from development services to the general fund of $175,000. It still has a healthy fund balance of 1.4 projected at the end of 26. The VERF. General fund, $451,000, that's police lease payments. Water, wastewater, $50,000. But the expenditures exceed inputs by more than $1.3 million. There is a fund balance to cover that. And so what we've got to do is, what staff and I have to do is go through each of the equipment, set out a projection and a pro forma, and then make a determination of how much we actually need to move in and out of the VERF. Right now, it's everything in the kitchen sink. So we've got to clean that up. Taking steps to making street maintenance and rehabilitation a priority. So the projections in the revenue, 3.549, $3 million from prior bond funds paid from the general fund, that's the 400,000 plus. We have expenses of 2.943, and that includes several thousands of dollars for pavement repair, culverts, those kinds of things, and then there are still dollars remaining for any major repairs.
Question. Does that include any equipment for their department?
Equipment is in the VERF
Yes,
fund.
sir. Okay. All right.
The goal for this fund is the vast majority of the revenue be put toward streets. General fund debt. We estimated a $20 million borrow capacity, and that could still be the case. I was conservative and said $15 million. Priority is the Old Iron Bridge and then the quality of life improvement toward the parks, and we'll go through that in the next worksheet. Future debt service, wastewater treatment plant, that should say wastewater treatment plant number 4, planning and construction 60 to 72 million. Although Corex and pro rata participation will offset that debt, as well as some additional revenue resulting from the wastewater treatment plant. Then the wastewater, the West Side Water Service expansion of 15 to 20 million. We are in discussions with Valverde developers to participate in that cost. Perhaps they build it dedicated and we offset impact fees, which takes it off of our books, takes it off of the debt, and I don't have the cost of money in the future. So in the general fund, there are no fee changes being proposed. In the wastewater fund, the correction of fees assessed to multifamily. Before, we wouldn't assess a fee because we believed the apartment was vacant, et cetera, et cetera. That's neither here nor there. Once they get the tap, once they get the payment, or once they make their payment for the tap and start utilities, we should be receiving a monthly fee. No fees changed in the building services and development services either. An example of building fees. This is last year's numbers. These are this year's. 4176 is still the proposed. Consideration. The proposed rate doesn't have to be the final adopted rate. If we reach the max of the voter approved rate, it's an additional $790 into the general fund, but would result in an increase of $132 based on the average of 331,711, which I'll go back and recalculate that. Sales tax 1.1%, no fees proposed. General fund, what we used to call one-time funds here of $783,000. So, important dates. July 24th, the appraiser certified the rolls, which is why you saw cars here all weekend long, because that's when we got the data. Staff had worked for the last probably 2 months inputting their proposals, honing down, but we're really working with theoretical numbers until that appraisal comes in. Our next hearing is set for August the 12th. Then we have, that should say August the 19th. That's a week after that. Any questions? So I do want to show you exactly what staff is working with. And I said to many of you that your book is a little bit rudimentary, but what we're building out for the public, and this is truly a transparency portal, this is what the budget book looks like to the outside world from a digital format. So we start with the tax compliant notice, the first page of the budget book. How does this affect you? You look at your tax rates, et cetera. A lot of words. But you go into the budgets themselves, and for example, we'll go into the city secretary's budget. There's the overview of the city secretary. There's the budget. You can actually drill down into any of the reports and filter out exactly what you want to see per department. You can see everything from supplies to, you name it. I'll give you a different report. And so I can do expenses, for example, and we'll do expenses by fund in Bastrop Power and Light, for example. You can drill down into, I know, I'm a nerd, but you can see expenses over revenues over the last several years. You can open up expenses. You can see exactly what personnel cost is, for example. You can see isolated between wages and benefits. You can see how much we've spent on maintenance and repairs, any capital outlay.
How far back does it go and how accurate is it?
5 years, and it's taking information based on our actuals from our financial software.
Okay.
So it is reading every single time. Actually, it's reading every night at midnight, but anytime we do a check run, anytime we do, it's updating.
And I would expect it to be accurate for, this week, this month, this year, but if you told me
is also accurate 5 years ago, I'm impressed. So that's why I was,
Well,
asking.
those are audited numbers. This year's number, our audit is expected, mid to late August, certainly before our debt issuance. So yes, we went through and we imported numbers from the financial software. We can go back, I
Okay.
believe, to 21, 22. So this is what's important for me as we talk about projects. You'll be able to see in the book itself, there's an index on the digital. There is every single department, every single dollar that we spend from the city and where it goes. So it is very, very, very cool. I know I'm geeking out, but
So real quick, I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way, but this is awesome. All right, thank you. And then I do want to say thank you, ladies, and everyone involved for all the hard work and dedication that y'all put in to get all of this for us. I know we're going to continue, but I just want to pause to say thank you. And I'm saying that because I pass by here several times a day on the weekends for sure, and I was like, man, these ladies have no home. But no, seriously, they've put in a lot of long days to get this prepared for us. So I just really, really want to thank y'all for your dedication and hard work and getting this to us. So thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Again, this right here, I'm sure is going to make a lot of citizens happy, especially those who really want to know what are we doing with the money, where is it going. So we're able to provide this with you or for you, and hopefully that'll help you guys out, and ladies too.
so for Councilmember Kirkland, your Gantt charts are also tied to the reports that are automatic. Takes a minute to load. So when we talk about project tracking and we talk about where is the project in relation, I know that some of you don't care about the budget, you just care about where is the project. I care about both. And so what we've did in the back end is our project managers have launched project management software to track. It was important. One of Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland's absolute this year, he ran on that, was on time and on budget. And so that we put in our project management software so you can keep us honest. You can, where are we? Where is that project? And are we where we're supposed to be? And when we're not, it's going to light up red. So
Where is that stoplight or that summary?
where is the oh, we haven't put your summary in yet. We haven't put your red, green, yellow.
Okay.
It'll show up in a storyboard. Okay, this is what the departments, I'll show you what the departments inserted. And so I have to commend them on the yeoman's effort that they put in to review each one of their line items. And I will again pick on police. This is every single expense and revenue that the police department uses. And her proposal, every proposal has details as to why everybody's doing that. Each one of these line items has a detail on what they're spending money on. So when the residents go out and they have a question about how much the police department is spending and on what particular line item, there is an item and then there's a detail that can explain exactly what it is. If we were still using checks, you could even put a check image in here.
Why does it say 0 for proposed revenues?
Because the police department receives no revenues. It's in the general fund.
Okay.
Okay. We will go back to, if there's no other questions, we'll move. Yes, ma'am.
For the dates, do we need to be holding August 15th as needed, or you remember we're holding August 14th and 15th, and then we switched to the 19th? Do we need to hold that 15th still?
I do not believe you need to hold a 15th. I wanted to give you a little bit of respite between the 12th and the 14th, and the 19th is 1 week from the 12th. So.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, just the 19th, no 14th, 15th. And then for some of the community partners who ask for funding are asking, when do they hear back, or should they come to any of these meetings?
I'm glad
and
I'm glad you raised that, because it is in the proposals. So what we did for our community partners, it is in, so the items that we discussed at retreat were funded, and that is 148,972.50. That's a total. Those items that were not funded, we discussed creating the Bastrop Gives Back and starting seed money and creating an online campaign that allows the residents to meet dollar for dollar up to a certain amount.
Let me just ask one question. Probably this is going to be a Michael. Michael, instead of me making notes on all, you're going to send out calendar, right, on all these dates? Because I just want to say, I don't want to be having to write stuff, so I know you're going to take care of those, and I appreciate that.
Was there any comments or concerns? Let me zoom this out a little bit so you can see it in its entirety. And what we discussed at retreat is entering into service contracts essentially with each one of these organizations because they provide support to city services. For example, the American Legion, that was a bridging Bastrop goal as when we first had the conversation of what are we trying to solve. Most frequently asked question was how do we access our veterans benefits and disability benefits. Bastrop Emergency Food Pantry, Women's Shelter, Long-Term Recovery, CASA, Children's Advocacy Center, Combined Community Action, which includes the senior food, yes, Meals on Wheels, Feed the Need, and In the Streets, Hands Up High for a total of $148,972.
Sylvia, on the ones that are not funded, will we send something to explain to them about the future, what we plan on doing?
Yes, I would entertain something from the council as to how much seed money you'd like to start with, perhaps the difference of last year and this year, and then we can do a 1-to-1 or 50 cents to 1 or something similar.
And I would assume we want to get that kicked off by October, no later than that, right?
October 1. Mhm.
Do we need to discuss that tonight?
You can chew on it. We're going to have several
Okay.
of these hearings.
All right, chew away.
We're going to have several of these hearings.
All right, are we good on the budget? All right, if we're good on the budget workshop, thank you, Sylvia. We'll move on to the Park and Recreation workshop.
So the $15 million borrow contemplates certain improvements, some of which we've had public hearings on site to discuss, some of which are for consideration today. First is the bridge rehab. There is extra dollars in there for contingency because you never know what that's going to be. Fireman's Park, 370,000, which is the $250,000 cost of the play equipment, and then $120,000 of associated improvements, such as shade covers, bleachers, some fencing along the playground. That is exclusive of a grant that we have received for $148,000 that will add a restroom in that area. There is currently no restroom in Fireman's Park. Mayfest Park, $248,000. That is the park equipment, the playground equipment, and the shade cover that is essentially between the restroom and the arena, big empty spot there. Delgado Park is $1.6 million for the accessibility playground, the splash pad, the covers, et cetera, and then $200,000 for an additional restroom. The existing restroom would be converted to an ADA restroom. That saves the mural and that saves the little building itself. Fisherman's Park, that's $575,000 to retrofit the splash pad, retrofit and update the splash pad so that it is recirculating water and not flushing it down the drain, literally. Purchase of the Pine Street House, which we will have a discussion about in executive session. Shade structures at the Little League, there's been a request. Many of those bleachers are out in the sun, making it very difficult for parents, or they congregate among one of the tree structures. A Veterans Memorial that is to be determined. We've not really isolated a location. We have 3 locations that we are contemplating where that can go. Par 3 golf course of $600,000, and we are currently writing a grant to Texas Parks and Wildlife for $750,000. Kerr Park, to be determined, $50,000 was programmed to update some of their play structures to music, but they have indicated that they may perhaps appreciate a parking lot or some parking lot improvements. A German casino and/or recreation of such on the grounds of the convention center. That we are also in the middle of writing a grant to LCRA for $100,000. And then Ferry Park has a nominal amount, and that's just replacing some worn equipment that is sun damaged, etc. Bringing the grand total to $14.9 million under the $15 million bar.
Is the Bark Park anywhere? Where does the Bark Park come in?
Oh, my goodness, we left the Bark Park off.
People be barking.
I had allocated, I had promised to allocate $50,000, so I had promised to allocate $50,000, so we will make those adjustments.
Sylvia, on the German casino, because it is on or about the grounds, the convention center to be used as convention center space can be paid for fully by hot funds.
You could, but the proposed cost, size, and scope is TBD, so I've just left that as a placeholder.
Okay.
The other thing.
That sounds cryptic.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
Well, it sounds cryptic, and my, I'll let the cat out of the bag and I'll get beat up on social media and everywhere else. We keep being asked for additional space for recreation and gathering, et cetera, et cetera. It's an opportunity to kill several birds with one stone. It's an opportunity to create a building that's larger than the existing recreation center, still have a gathering space, still be able to hold larger classes. It will not have a running river through it. It will not have a giant scale through, a giant scaling fence, but it is larger than what is currently available, leaving the current space for just the weight training that is sort of off to the corner. It is certainly not where the community wants it to be, but in terms of scale and scope. But it would fill a need, especially that overlay of convention that requires, smaller spaces that perhaps can't be accommodated when the convention center is being used in its entirety.
Even that can be funded, though, with hot funds. Now,
Correct.
that assumes that the hot funds are available and there's sufficient balance and those things. But that's not on here, so I just get to assume there's an infinite amount of money there. But how do you choose between putting it up here versus doing it with hot funds? Because I kind of thought, like the German casino, we would be able to do that with hot funds.
So you can. My thought again was because we were going to be using recreation space also in a transparent way of it is really parks and recreation space also as well as convention center space. And on the grounds, yes, it qualifies for hot, and I could remove it from here and put that money somewhere else or reduce the borrow by that amount.
Well, overall, that's kind of why I'm asking is either reallocate it or reduce it. But, okay.
Sylvia, on the Par 3, the 750 grant, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Mr. Cervantes Gilbert that made us aware also that we didn't even
Yes.
know? Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Cervantes.
Mr. Cervantes,
because
who's in the
that's a
audience.
huge thing that we were brought aware of at the last minute. So that's a big deal.
We've engaged a grant writer on a short-term contract, and she's writing several grants for us that are all due August 1. So fast and furious, yes.
And how fun that we're able to apply for Texas Parks and Wildlife grants again.
Yes.
We weren't for a while, so that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes, we had not applied for a Texas Parks and Wildlife grant since 2016. We did not have, we used up park space with the water tanks at Bob Bryant, and so we were gigged for not having the total park
Oh.
space.
Wow.
So the creation of the dog park, the creation of the 15 acres for the golf, the addition of, the future addition of Ironwoods, I mean, we have far surpassed what is required.
That's a win-win. Everybody wins on that.
Green space everywhere.
We just got to manage that green space, and when you drill down into the contractual obligations in park and recreation, you might have a different feeling about that.
We'll just get some goats.
True.
All right. So we have anything else for our Parks and Rec workshop?
No.
Council members, you have anything? All right. Thank you. All right, on to our staff and board reports, please.
That was it.
That was it? Nothing else? Okie dokie. All right, we now reach citizen comments. At this moment, I only have one citizen signed up to speak, and that is Cecilia Cerna. And she wishes to speak on item 10A. Good evening.
Good evening, Cecilia
Name,
Cerna,
please.
1104 Hill Street.
There you go.
I'm not talking loud enough. Cecilia Cerna, 1104 Hill Street. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. It seems like I always come up with an opposal of something. My biggest concern is with the proposal of the grant for the par 3 golf course. Basically, just golf is for the elite. The vast majority of people in our city, I'm sure, are not going to be able to enjoy the golf course. And as Mr. Lowe said, green space everywhere. Well, let's use the green space for people that would really come to use it in everyday uses, like hike and bike or respite. The amount of water used on a golf course, it should be a concern. The average cost of a small golf course is $7 million. I'm sure many residents would love to see that money go into other parks or some of the community funds that are needed or asked for by the different organizations. I'm just saying, let's take a look at this. I'm excited. Yes, we need grant writers. I love grant writers. It helps businesses, it helps cities so that we don't have to worry about spending money from the general fund. But honestly, like I said, a golf course is for the elite. I certainly, and I can say many of my family members will not partake of a golf course and what it offers unless there's going to be other amenities there and it's going to be used and have different uses. Another thing that concerned me is in a previous meeting, I saw where the annual budget for our fire department was $1.1 million and parks is $1.2 million. That's money that can go into those departments. Now, I may go back and be corrected, but that is what I remember in a couple months back as listed in one of the drafts for where we were on the budget. An estimated borrow of $15 million, and 10 of that is from the old Iron Bridge. I'm sure other people were under the impression when that said it was going to parks and quality of life, that didn't mean a golf course. I mean, as just mentioned, the structures for Little League was $75,000. $750,000 grant would definitely buy more coverage for more parks, like Fireman's Park doesn't have a cover. And I'm sure there's a lot of other parks that would love to have covers for the parents that are there enjoying the games. I'm sure any of you that have children realize and know how fun it is to sit on the bleacher in the hot sun. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, do we have any more citizen comments? All right, thank you. So that is it for citizen comments. On to our consent agenda. The following may be acted upon in one motion. A council member or a citizen may request items to be removed from the consent agenda for any individual consideration. Council members, do we have anything that you want to have removed?
Could we take off 10B, please?
All right, 10B. Okay. So, agenda item 10B, consider and act on a resolution number R-2025-128 to authorize the city manager to submit a grant application to the LCRA, Lower Colorado River Authority, in the amount of $100,000 for the creation of an educational facility highlighting the previous German casino. No worries.
Happy to answer any questions while he does that.
Sure. Who's the local nonprofit? It's usually spelled out, like, who is it?
Judy Hoover and Company created a nonprofit. That's the nonprofit who took possession of the bricks and the all of the wood, the salvageable wood.
Okay. They have a name yet?
I'm sure they do. I don't have that offhand.
But this is one of the grants that's due August 1st?
Yes.
Okay, so they for sure have their name and
Yes.
all filings and all that. Okay, I just was curious about their name, who it was. I imagine it was her, but that's my only question.
Sure.
That's the only question you had?
Yeah, because they've been like taking responsibility and for the handling and
Yes.
cleaning and
Yes, we
we
entered
super
into an agreement with them at the,
Mm-hmm.
by resolution that would allow them to store the bricks at the Public Works yard.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so there are bricks and really beautiful historic beams that were salvaged from the building.
Okay, awesome.
All right. You have anything else?
Move to approve.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes unanimous. All right. Oh, yeah, so we need to approve 10A, excuse me, thank you, John. So, agenda item 10A, all in favor? Oh, we need the motion, sorry, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Meyer and Councilmember Lowe, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it passes unanimous. All right, on to item 11, individual items for consideration. 11A, consider and act on the resolution number R-2025-129 to authorize the city manager to waive permit fees for Bastrop Independent School District for the construction of their campus improvement off of Lovers Lane.
I'm going to
Ms.
get there in
Sylvia?
just a minute. Thank you, Mayor. This is a request by Bastrop ISD to waive their permitting fees for the construction of the building that's being built over at Lovers Lane. As you're aware, they are also under financial constraints because it was bond dollars, and things are coming in more expensive than others. They would have liked to have us waive tap fees and impact fees. However, that's not possible for us to do that. Those are encumbered by debt.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
What's the value of the fees that are being
I'm
waived?
about to get it for you.
Okay.
I'm not used to running this computer, so it's missing all sorts of info. Doc, do you recall?
You said 83,598?
83,598.
Are we covering our expenses on those?
Yes, so if you recall, BISD used to have third-party inspections. They've
Right.
now engaged us as well, and that is really why you see the fund balance as it is in the Development Services Fund. We did away with all third-party, brought those in-house, and Doc and his crew have been doing the inspections
So you're saying that we'll make up for that revenue gap?
in the
with-
inspection fees,
With
yes.
inspections, okay.
Yes,
And so then I guess we're to assume that you're okay with this?
yes.
Okay.
Fully make up that gap in inspections?
Fully and then some,
Fully and then some. And they originally
Nice.
asked for also tap fees and impact fees?
correct.
Okay. So I do, like, I'm fine to support this, but I also want to always have that conversation, like when we're taking it off the BISD, is like, how many people are in there? Like, this is like taking out of their district and putting the burden on just our city residents. And I'm fine to do that. I just want to always have that conversation about when we're doing that.
Not truly, because they're going to get it on one side of the ledger or the other. If BISD has to increase their debt rate to cover, they're going to get it on the school rate. And the school rate far exceeds the city rate. Far exceeds, it's double plus the city rate.
But it's spread over a broader community, no?
It is, but for example, a payment of 83, or a waiver of 83,598, offset by inspection fees of easily $200,000, it just makes sense to all of our residents to be able to, and the development fund is a restricted fund anyway. It does make a contribution to the general fund, but only enough to cover administrative expenses.
Okay.
So we'd be building a fund balance on the backs of the residents who would see a tax increase at BISD.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah,
for
I
putting
think that's excellent. Anytime we can work like this and have partnerships, that's what it's about. And we come in the double plus, so it's a win-win-win, especially for our citizens.
I wouldn't be so apt to do it if we weren't doing inspection fees with them, because
Sure.
we had zero revenue from them 2 years ago.
Yeah, it
because
paints
of-
a bigger picture.
Because of this
Yeah.
kind of conversation.
In the resolution language, can we put a not to exceed, like 84,000 or something? Like, could this amount change? Are they like for sure done? Is this the final?
That's a question for Doc. Is this the final? Okay. Move that, okay. So in a not to exceed 83,598.
I would prefer to add that specific language, are y'all? Yeah. Sure. I'd like to motion to approve with a not to exceed $83,598.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it passes unanimous. Okay, on to agenda item 11B. I am going to recuse myself from this agenda item, and Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland is going to handle this one.
So we're moving on to item 11B, consider an act on resolution number R 2025-130, authorizing Austin Water to use the City of Bastrop site for educational purposes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This normally would just require city manager authorization, but because this is such a hot topic, I informed Austin Water that I would be asking the council's permission. Essentially, they want to set up a site, a location within the city where they can explain aquifer storage and recovery. We would not have, we really wouldn't have any control of what they're informing, educating, passing out, et cetera, et cetera.
Sylvia, can they not just pay for a site somewhere and not have the City of Bastrop logo on anything where there's a meeting? Because I don't want a perceived impression that by any means the city of Bastrop is supporting anything that Austin Water, and I know I'm probably being hypersensitive, but I am hypersensitive about this, and I just don't want the perception of any support whatsoever. That's my problem with that.
So they are going to pay. They'll pay for whatever site they use at the regular rate. I actually offered this because I didn't want their site to be in Rosanke, or I didn't want the site to be prohibitive to a City of Bastrop resident wanting to attend and learn. But I agree, no City of Bastrop logos over any of their educational material.
And how are they advertising this? How are they reaching out to people?
So they've got social media, they've got ad campaigns, they've got a marketing budget.
Okay.
Would they not be able to just rent space at the convention center?
Yes, they'll be able to, they can pay for any space they want to use, whether that's the library, whether that's the convention center, whether that's any one of our sites that is for rent.
You know, I missed the fact that when it said to use the City of Bastrop site, I assumed that was for free.
No.
And I think of Austin Water as our adversary, and as such, if they want to brainwash our citizens, the least they could do is pay retail price to do it. And so since we're charging, you know, maybe we should charge double.
Could we also, in all of the material that's put out, make sure that agreement with them as they are not to use any city logo, anything pertaining to the City of Bastrop whatsoever?
Yeah, anything that would imply support from the City of Bastrop.
Absolutely, yes.
We still have an active resolution in opposition to this project.
Do you want a disclaimer in addition to like the absence of a logo? Do you want anything?
No, I want them to know before they put anything out that they cannot use the City of Bastrop on anything. That there's not even going to be a beginning of it, because that's
No.
not even a question.
No, I think that's, so if we just assume that for a moment,
Right.
right? I think Carrie's question, Councilperson Foster's
Almost a step
question
further.
Well,
is, would
actually,
you like to go further than that?
I understand that. I understand exactly what she's saying. I'd like a copy of the resolution to be on the paper.
Well, that could be a disclaimer.
Let's therefore make the disclaimer being the resolution that we passed.
Well, if I assume there's a couple hundred words in that resolution, I don't know that I want to put that on the page because no one would see that or read that. But something like, you know, the city council of the City of Bastrop has passed resolution XYZ
With the number,
in
right.
opposition to this project, or
Yeah.
you know, something like
Well,
that.
whatever, I want any and all. I want the kitchen sink on it. I want it to be very clear, no matter what, that nothing even suggests that there's an inference of any support
Mhm.
from the City of Bastrop.
And it's a Q&A, right?
It would be a Q&A, yes.
Okay. I just would
They
like
plan to
that.
have a staff member there to answer any walk-in questions, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that needs to be out there. Definitely.
I mean, it's just education, re-education, whatever they were.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just, here's what we got. And you just sit down and listen. So,
You know, when we had the water permit for the wastewater treatment plant that was going to go out for, was it Gapped Bass LLC, that was the boring company and SpaceX. TCEQ, they rented out the Hampton Inn and had a big public hearing and let everyone line up at a microphone going down the center, and we sat there for a very long time. Room was, you know, past overflow, and some people weren't allowed in because of that. But, you know, something like that might be appropriate as a kind of a public hearing kind of a thing. And whenever we if we reach a phase where we involve the TCEQ in the permitting process, I intend for us to formally request things like that to take place by the TCEQ. But in the now timeframe, to the extent that the city of Austin wants to hear the same thing they've heard from us, from our residents, I would encourage it.
So I don't know how we make it clear also. Listen, because I have a big trust issue with City of Austin. How to make it very clear to our residents that I know we're saying it now, but a lot of people don't listen, believe it or not, everybody's not tuned in, and to know that they are not given the space, that they are paying. So whatever we need to say and put that out there too. Please, let's make sure that people know that.
I think it would be helpful for us to also have a survey out there on how the residents felt, how they would vote, how they want the council to vote. So at this point, make sure they pay, and we need a disclaimer. Okay. I'll take a motion. Nobody wants to make the motion.
Well, I can't.
A hot potato if there ever was one.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve with the addition of a disclaimer, the City of Bastrop, just a disclaimer, is that fine? And that they pay published rental rate. Anything else?
No use of the logo. The logo,
And
like no use of the
no use of the logo, the City of Bastrop logo. Okay.
Is there a second?
Okay, I'll second.
Second.
Okay, so now we're on to discussion. So we have a motion on the table with a second. Councilperson Meyer, what are your thoughts?
I really don't want anything to do with Austin. That's what I want. That's what I think. I just, I get that, Sylvia. I totally get that, having it out in the county. But I want to stay as far away and property as far away from the city of Austin as we can. So I want that line to be as clear as possible. And even with a facility that is owned by the city, that still, to me, muddies a little bit of waters, and that's my thought.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so if we say no to this, they're just totally on their own for renting.
You're renting some public space?
That's also not a bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I don't know, I'm a little bit with Sylvia here that, if we're going to have this discussion, I'd rather it be in Bastrop rather than out of Bastrop.
For sure.
Yeah, because the
And
next conversation we'll get is, I couldn't get to a public hearing because
Yeah.
carts didn't run at that
Yeah,
time.
how often do we hear that kind of stuff? So, and this is the county seat. This is, so this is what Bastrop was put here for, is to, adjudicate these kind of county matters. So I feel kind of responsible to have the public forum.
Under that, Kevin, I'm just trying to come up with a solution that would not involve the city, because you just brought up county, and that's a huge thing. So can we not dictate where they have it?
Fair enough. We could work with the Art Center perhaps, or the Hampton, or the
Yeah,
museum.
see, something like that is much more neutral to me than owned by the city. And this is the county thing, too. The people, of the county need to be very concerned. It's not just a city issue. So having it somewhere like that, Sylvia, speaks much more volume of more people in a surrounding area. Just to me, it does.
They do plan to have it in multiple locations, for example, in Smithville, in Elgin, in the
Right.
county, so.
And my understanding was it was going to be like a, kind of like ongoing office hours, not a
Yes.
one-time public
Yes,
hearing thing.
ongoing.
So like ongoing. So really, they just want at least a presence in the city of Bastrop. It doesn't have to be a city-owned property.
Correct.
Well, I wouldn't think it likely could be if they're gonna, like, set up shop for an extended period of time, because we don't really have space like that, that we could, let them have for.
They gave some dates. I think the first date is September 19th, and then every week thereafter for a few weeks, and then,
Yeah, I mean, why not let them set up shop in one of the, there's not very many empty places left downtown, but there's a few, and I would think. I don't know.
you can deny this and instead direct staff to help facilitate a location
Yeah.
that is not a
I
city-owned
think
facility.
your idea of the Hampton Inn is great. I really do. Or the art center.
I gotcha. City location, but not necessarily city-owned.
Right.
Yeah, that's, I think, the difference.
There was a meeting this last week at 6:02, which was kind of a community meeting, involved city business. There was a number of council members there, and we appropriately sat there quietly and said nothing. And when asked a question, we said, we have to sit here quietly and say nothing.
Right.
But it also seemed to me in that meeting with a bunch of people that knew who we were sitting there with us, that they recognized that it was a separate meeting, not belonging to the city of Bastrop. And that I saw as, I was just slightly surprised at that. Not big time surprised. I mean, these are smart people, it's obvious, but at the same time, it's an emotional topic, as this will be as well. And so the fact that it was in a neutral third-party location meant it was easy for us to say as the city that, we're here because we want to hear what they have to say as well. We don't want to be surprised by it at any point, but this is not our show and we're not allowed to speak. So there was some benefit to having it that way. So, council, we have a motion on the table. So unless that motion gets withdrawn,
I'll withdraw that motion.
okay. So we no longer have a motion on the table.
All right.
So perhaps a motion to deny, or
I'll make a motion to deny and direct staff to communicate and find a non-city-owned, neutral, convenient location. Does that make sense, Sylvia?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
okay, we have a motion from Councilperson Meyer, a second from Councilperson Lowe. Any other discussion, council? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And now let's bring our mayor back.
All right. So I did have a couple of things I wanted to say. So we're going to break into executive session, but before we do, just in case we lose any people watching or some other people here in the audience, just want to throw it out there. This week is homecoming here in Bastrop, and I'm only saying this because we didn't have a mayor's report or council member's report. So it's homecoming here in Bastrop. For those of you who don't know about homecoming, it has nothing to do with football. Okay? All right?
I learned that the hard way
Okay.
the first year. I thought I had a mom to get and all that stuff.
And for those of you who also question why do we have it at this time of the year? Well, this is when the soldiers came back from World War II, and the community, being the great, loving, supportive, and welcoming community that we are, decided to celebrate. And thus, long and short, we have homecoming. So it will be this weekend. every year for the remainder of time, as long as Bastrop is around. And but it is a great time for our community. Lots of activities, lots of rodeo events, and class reunions. So please be sure to stop by for that. And then one other thing, this is something that's kind of been flying low under the radar, and I want everyone to know about it. So Bastrop has a 15U Pony League team. In case you don't know what that is, that's baseball. And these young fellas, I had the fortune to speak to them yesterday. They're traveling to Louisiana tomorrow. I can't remember the name of the city, I'm sorry. But they're playing in the South region to be able to qualify to go to the Little League World Series. So if they win this tournament, they will go to the Little League World Series. And that is real big because Bastrop's never had a team, to my knowledge, to make it that far. And so it's a great group of guys. They've worked really, really hard. They got a great attitude, great coach, great support system. So if I'm able to get a link, I'll share the link on my Facebook page for those who follow me on Facebook. But if nothing else, just the support of Bastrop from afar will be felt way in Louisiana. So I just want to throw that out there. And good luck, Bastrop Knights, and go represent Bastrop well. All right, so now we're going to break into executive session. And we have, got to go back to the front. Here we go. Council shall convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Local Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.072 to seek advice and legal counsel to discuss and deliberate regarding the proposed sale of real estate property located along Jasper Street. And agenda item 5B, council shall convene into to close executive session pursuant to Texas Local Government Code Section 551.072, deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property located. Was that supposed to be real estate?
No.
It's real? Okay. All right, real property located on Pine Street. All right, it is now 7:46 p.m. and we're breaking into executive session. Yeah, you know. Well, since you wanted to do that, now the responsibility falls on you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you, Bastrop, for tuning in to our workshop budget. I hope you're happy with the results and the link. The website should be ready by Friday for citizens to be able to look into as much as you want to when it comes to the budget. So have fun, enjoy yourselves, and have a great night. Thank you.